Good evening, Iowa and the world. This is the Doc and Lefty program broadcasting to you for, on the countdown clock, the final days here at the webcast1live.com studios in beautiful downtown Des Moines. This is Lefty coming to you, as always, with the perspectives you love from the sides that you hate. It's sweltering, and with me is my, smoldering co-host, Dr. J. Patrick Bertroche. Doc, how is it going today?
You know what? It's going pretty good overall. I wish the cameras were just a little bit better. You could see the steam rising off of me.
I can feel it.
Smoldering hot.
I can feel it.
I'm hotter than Maddie.
I'm sitting here I'm sitting too close.
Oh, yes. You better back off.
I should back off. Yeah, but I like it.
You like the heat?
I do.
It beats the crap out of the cold, don't you think?
I do.
So, how was your gigs?
Oh man,
Awesome.
I'll tell you what. I played at the Flying Moose this past Friday, and I don't know that I have I ended up playing for 4 hours. The first hour and a half or so, I just played straight through, a little bit more than that. And I don't think that I've done a better job overall performance-wise, like just kind of into it, than I did Friday night. It was the best I'd felt in a long time. And if you can't tell that I'm a little bit ragged, other than just working all the time the way that I normally do, I've had so many things lined up the last couple of weeks, and then I just picked up another one. I'm going to be in Iowa City next Friday on the 15th. I've got a show on Saturday, a show next Wednesday, next Friday, I think the Wednesday after that. It's just, May is just crazy.
Yes, I can imagine that. You told me that a while ago.
Yeah.
So,
and we're into it. It's already the 5th, if you can believe it.
It is the 5th.
Of
Golly.
May. Yeah.
It's Cinco de Mayo.
Yeah.
Duh.
That's true.
No wonder everybody was out having parties yesterday and today out in my neighborhood. So,
I don't know. We weren't invited. At least I wasn't. You might have been. I wasn't.
I wasn't invited. You get invited to more parties than I do.
Well, I don't know if that's necessarily true. I invite myself, I think, to more parties.
Well,
than
that's
you.
true. That's true.
Yeah.
You know what we need to do? We need to hang out with Maddie more, because she gets invited to all the cool parties.
Well,
she's back there going, yeah.
I would.
I sure do.
I would love to. I would love to, but I'm telling you that I think that Maddie could do better
than us.
Yes,
I'm not quite sure that's true. She's got a good man. She has a very good husband. But I'm talking about just sheer party animalness.
That's what I'm talking about.
Oh, I don't think she could beat me or you. I mean, you sing, and I'm a natural personality.
Well,
how can you beat that?
You're a character, that's for sure.
I am a character. Whether you like me or not. I'm kind of like Daffy Duck. Some people like Daffy, but other people go, yeah, that's just a duck, needs kicked.
Yep.
So,
you mean you got a bad attitude, no one can understand what you're talking about?
Yeah. Well, that's especially on this show. Yes. I'm glad you're here to translate for me.
I do the best I can, because at least one of us has got to speak in full sentences. without
I occasionally speak in full sentences.
Spitting all over the place. But you weren't feeling too well, buddy boy.
No, apparently there is a new form of influenza B that has all the traits of influenza except none of the fever. So I just thought for a while, is my blood sugar's going wild? Because I'm sure if I don't mention this, my mom will pick this time to remember to watch the show. Okay?
Right.
But I'm wearing my Hawaiian shirt again because I want to be comfortable. 2, it's hot.
Yep.
And 3, I have been feeling under the weather. I had to take the last couple of days off. I generally don't do that.
Mm-hmm.
And then, by the way, for our listeners out there, I usually have my cell phone. I have forgotten that at home as well. So Lefty is going to have not only his own brain power, which I'm not afraid of, but then he's got the power of Google at the tips of his fingers in his hand. And I'm a little afraid of how much information Google can cough back up.
Well, it's a good thing I haven't paid attention to anything in the last week.
Well, but that's not unusual.
I know.
I mean, a lot of times you roll in here and say, what are we even talking about?
I know.
I'll go, I sent you the memo. Mm-hmm. I sent you the memo.
Yeah. So I think our audience can tell. I to the extent they have expectations, I think that their expectations have been disappointed for the last few.
Or at least you've effectively reset. You reset the expectations much lower, so it's a lot easier to make our threshold now.
That's true.
For absolute truth.
That's a good point.
But it's kind of like Rise of the Machines over there, though.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, all the time you're on your phone looking stuff up. And I don't have that kind of, well, one, I don't have those lightning quick thumbs the young folks do. And number two, I ain't got the eyesight anymore. I gotta make the screen real big, and then you poke one button, and then you go, now what? And then it's just a real pain.
I understand.
So that's why we have Maddie.
Yep.
Because she got flying fingers, gets everything out there.
Well, and we've got our sort of unpaid independent contracting fact checkers out there that aren't afraid to to type in, although they can't text you now.
Yeah,
so.
well, I want to see how the show goes with that, because there's sometimes I get distracted arguing with these. Well, with our loyal listeners online. I was going to say boneheads, but well,
now you said it.
Yeah,
you didn't need to do that.
You're right, but I have to be honest. See, being a conservative, I have to be honest. That's one of my things.
And rude.
And if it means that you view me as rude, no. We have a lot of people that disagree with me, and we have a lot of people that disagree with you.
Right, that's true.
But the thing is they're not boneheads. I mean, they're that's why I said I wasn't going to say that.
Nope.
So they're really good people.
But and just so that you all kind of get the message, get the picture. I talked to your brother Joe yesterday.
Oh yeah.
I called to ask him for a favor that I end up getting it taken care of a different way, in a way that's actually going to be a little more convenient for everybody involved. And although when he called me back, said he's more than willing to do it. And the thing now, a lot of the stuff that comes in from the conservative side, or from your brother at least, we play it up on the show as picking on me or picking at the things that I say, right? And that's kind of the running bit of the show. Now,
well, he needs somebody to hate over there on the left, and you're about the safest target he's got.
He sincerely disagrees with just about everything that I have to say. I don't want to paint him as insincere at all. However, what I like about him is that he'll take my phone call. Every time, anytime I need, I think that we work well together. I do favors for him, and he's always willing to do a favor for anybody that asks, and so I really do appreciate that about him.
Oh, well, that's good. He'll appreciate hearing that.
Yeah.
So hopefully he's not throwing anything at the TV. Hopefully he's listening, so he's not like texting. He's emailing.
Right.
I can't get my email here, so I'm kind of blind.
You might as well have just gone on a camping trip.
I might as well just said, Lefty, run the show. Bring Maddie in. She's kind of conservative.
I don't know.
She isn't at all.
I don't know. I've never actually talked to her about it.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Well, you talk to her more than I do, and I know she's a kind of a left.
Well, you assume everybody is. That's the thing.
I don't
When I moved in across the street, we've told this story probably 100 times. When I moved in across the street, this is how Doc introduced himself to me. He said, "Hey, are you in law school? You're a pretty big liberal, huh?" Like he'd been checking up on me. That's how it went down. I didn't know what the heck was going on, because here's this guy going, you knew things. I'd never met him before, and he already knew at least what I was into and what my political.
Well, that's one of the drawbacks of being a psychiatrist. That's why people go, honest to goodness, they have a face. When they come up and say, "Oh, well, hi, blah, blah, blah," they talk to you. "What do you do for a living?" And I'll say, "I'm a psychiatrist." This is the face. And they bolt. It's just like that. I have had people, honest to goodness, almost shake my hand. I say I'm a psychiatrist, and off. Kid you not. And you were the only one that didn't do that. Although I think I told you I was a construction worker at the beginning. Because that's generally what I do. I work construction, because people believe that. Nobody in the right mind believes I'm a doctor.
I don't remember that. I remember, well, what's really funny is when I'm playing a gig and somebody comes up and says, "So is this just all you do, or do you have a day job?" And I tell them I'm a lawyer. So
that would be a no.
I have about half the people are interested. "Oh, really? Tell me all about it." Oh man, I don't know. I'm really boring, and my job is really only interesting to me, and the folks that I represent have a lot of problems, and I don't really feel like talking to you about them right now.
Yeah, that's right.
The other half do the same thing that you just described. They look at me and they say,
Oh, man.
I've dealt with lawyers before. I don't really feel like a repeat performance.
You know, what's funny is I was down at the doctor today because I just couldn't stand it anymore. And so I'm sitting there and the student is talking to me. He's being, professional, but he's already got the doctor look and attitude down. So he's kind of talking down to me. And so I'm like, well, what do I do? Do I sit there and, act like, oh my God, I have cancer and make a big deal out of it? Should I grind him down to paste with the knowledge I have? Or should I just go, send Marty in with my doctor?
Mm-hmm.
And so I just let it go and he comes in, excuse me. And so Morton, this is my doctor. We're chatting back and forth. Pretty soon this kid catches a clue and he just turns bright red, right? So we're sitting there talking about it. Then Marty tells me, hey, you have influenza B. And I said, get out of here. And he said, no, you do. And on that note, I'm going to let Lefty take us out of here because I'm having a little bit of a trouble. I'll be back right after this break.
We will.
We want to thank our sponsors.
Oh, yeah, I suppose we should do that. So we want to thank all of our sponsors that take care of us, help us take care of you. Labinas Law Firm, Bertroshan Associates, Des Moines Anesthesia, Halo Capital, all the folks that help support webcast1live.com. We certainly wanted to give them a shout out as well. Check us out, DocNLefty.com, Facebook, Twitter, the entire thing. When we come back, we'll be talking about developments in the presidential field. We got a few more people who have declared. We got a few more people who are sort of beating the drum a little bit louder. And later on in the show, we're going to be talking about the attack in Texas and the cartoon convention that was down there, what this means for ISIS in America. And I believe that Doc had some thoughts on Ukraine because, believe it or not, that thing is still going on. You'd think that Syria, Baltimore, and Iraq and Afghanistan were the only things wrong in the world, but Ukraine is still out there having problems. So that's what we're going to talk about throughout the show. Stick around. We enjoy having you listen to us.
Bertroshan Associates, how can I help you?
Bertroshan Associates will provide you with a friendly, caring, and confidential place to find help for mental health concerns. We are ready for your call. Our doctor, Dr. J. Patrick Bertrosh, provides a full range of psychiatric services for children, adolescents, and adults in a forthright and informative manner while maintaining a casual, comfortable, and relaxed atmosphere.
Whether you're 10, 25, 50, 80 years old and beyond, everyone needs to live within their means. I'm Tom Coates with Consumer Credit of America. For almost a quarter of a century, we've helped people of all ages learn to manage their personal finances to benefit them far into the future. When problems arise, we've got the experience you need to make those debt problems go away. Got financial problems? Call Consumer Credit of America.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
Welcome back, everybody. Thanks for sticking around. This is the Doc and Lefty program. We are always on Tuesdays. We are always start at 6:30. We go for an hour, and we certainly enjoy you coming along with us. Now, Doc does send me a memo every week about about what's on his mind. Sometimes I send him a memo about what's on mine, but honestly, my emails are usually 2 lines and they don't pertain to the show. And so they're not particularly helpful in planning anything. But it's usually like you suck or I don't know, or some other
something like that.
Yeah. Out of nowhere. It's like, oh well, my day was actually going pretty nice until Blake emailed me. Oh. But
and even after you do, all I do is I laugh because I go, I got one more Lefty irritated with me.
Yep.
I mean, it makes my day.
Oh, absolutely.
I live for it.
But you wanted to talk about the new developments in the presidential primary 2016. We're already talking about this. It's May 2015 already. And this is just how it's going to go, I guess, for the end of time. But you wanted to talk about some of the new developments. I know that on the Democratic side, Bernie Sanders has declared. Mm-hmm. Martin O'Malley just declared. Those are 2 guys that have been making noises for a while.
Yeah.
Carly Fiorina over on your side of the thing declared. Anybody else?
Mike Huckabee declared today. Ben Carson, I think, declared yesterday.
I think that's right.
And he was supposed to come here to Iowa, but something happened in his family. He couldn't make it. Jim Webb is running on your side.
Did he declare? I just thought he was rumored to be.
Well, he is. Yeah, he set a date. From what I've read, he set a date, and of course Hillary.
Right.
And the problem is everybody's going like, well, hold on. There's more than just Hillary running. The big news, though, on the Republican side is Rick Santorum looks like he's going to run, and Mike Huckabee looks like is running. The big kicker there is Huckabee is a darling, an absolute darling among the social conservatives and a lot of the fiscal conservatives. Now, he's got a little bit of a baggage from, running in Arkansas or being governor of Arkansas. He had to raise taxes a little bit. But the bottom line is he is very personally engaging. Now, Jeb Bush apparently has all the major money locked up, so it's kind of a rerun of 2008, where there were several people who had money wrapped up, but Huckabee still came in second. I mean, he was a last horse running. It was him and McCain all the way down to the end until McCain finally got the nomination. So,
well, McCain won up. No, Huckabee quit after McCain won Super Tuesday, I thought, because McCain, you guys have the winner take all. And somebody correct me if I'm trying to remember this off the top of my head, and I'm not trying to use my phone as a crutch. But I was pretty sure that because the Republicans, McCain got the nomination well before Hillary and Obama got it figured out.
Yeah,
and I'm pretty sure that.
But in that horse race, the last person still running that hadn't dropped out was Huckabee.
Right, but he wasn't even close delegate wise.
And that's true, and he wasn't close. But the bottom line is McCain had wiped everybody else out, but but Huckabee was still in there.
Well, and this is I saw something on I think now I can't remember. I think The Economist. I think The Economist put a sort of a handy cheat sheet for the Republican nominees.
The Atlantic.
The Atlantic, that's right.
Because I'm looking at that now since I forgot all my notes at home on my phone.
That has like the top three, and then the or the dark horse is the no shot. The people just try to push something.
Yes.
And they put Huckabee in that people just trying to push something. You know, he's trying to kind of carve out that ideological corner that he made got known for back in 2008. The problem is he didn't have Rick Santorum to run against in 2008. He didn't have a he didn't have a Ted Cruz. He didn't have a Rick Perry. So
and that's true. And a lot of these people ran in the last election cycle.
Right.
And I do think that had Mike Huckabee run in 2012, he would have really had the nomination sewn up because he was so popular. The problem is in that period of time, strangely enough, most of the blowback that Huckabee's going to have to deal with comes from Iowa and our fight over Common Core. Because Huckabee's a big supporter, supposedly used to be a big supporter of Common Core. And of course, most of the solid hardcore Republicans here in the state really detest it.
It's going to make it tough for Jeb.
Yeah.
And, Jeb is a big Common Core guy.
Yeah, I know. And that's why I don't think he's going to win in Iowa. But even Branstad, who was marginally warm to it at the beginning, said, no, we're not going to do the Common Core thing. So Huckabee's got a lot to overcome. He's going to have Rick Santorum over there. Now, I don't think Santorum is going to do nearly as well this time around as he did last time.
Nope.
Several factors. One, Uncle Bob got defeated on his recall the last time around in the last election cycle. His Uncle Bob's claim to fame is to have recalling the Supreme Court judges.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, I see.
In this last one,
gotcha.
He failed at it. He still has a powerful organization. However, the liberals have really done a good job of counteracting a lot of what he's doing, a lot of the social things, social issues. So I think that Santorum's going to have a difficult problem just with that. And the other person is, you hit it right on the head, Ted Cruz. Mm-hmm. He's a fiscal and social issues darling. Now, we're going to be back right after this break. We're going to continue talking about Ted Cruz, Ben Carson, Carly Fiorina. Is that how you pronounce her name?
That's right.
And all the other candidates as they come up. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. Be back right after this break.
Hey, psst. Let me let you in on a little secret. You ready? Always try to do business with people, not places, especially if you seek honest Christian business people. And when it comes to my car, I really need to trust who's working on it. Now, my family is so blessed. A few years ago, we found a family-owned automobile repair shop that operates as a Christian business also. Open, honest, reliable, trustworthy. It's AMCO on Hickman Road in front of Kmart, and it's a family-owned Christian operating business. This family treats your car as if it was their car. Everything from oil changes to transmission repair and everything in between. So the next time you feel the need to be at peace with your choice of who you can trust with your car, give AMCO on Hickman a chance to serve you. And tell them Max sent you.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast 1 Live.
Hey, welcome back, everybody. Thanks for sticking around. We're talking about the presidential slate, and I think for the first half hour, these last 10 minutes, let's finish up with the Republican. Maybe spend a little. We probably don't need as much time for the Democrats since there aren't as many of them.
No, there's just 4.
But I want to talk about. I want to pick your brain, as I like to do, and as I think that I'm pretty good at, about the sort of the guys that are placing themselves as the religious conservatives and kind of hitting Iowa hard right from the get-go, because as has become received wisdom since the last presidential election, Iowa's Republican Party is dominated by the religious conservative, the social conservative, the religious folks primarily. That if you are the most into the Bible, is they like you the best. And this is the issue that I think and that the folks like Santorum, Ted Cruz, Huckabee, all those kinds of folks are going to have, is primarily from a political context, the most energy that has been generated from the religious right in recent years has been opposition to same-sex marriage. Abortion's always there, so don't get me wrong. That's always going to be the slow burn, but abortion has been a fight for a long time. The same-sex marriage opposition has ramped up over the last few years as the country has gotten more and more okay with it. And I'm curious what you think about the political wisdom of staking a position in a primary or even in a general election, boldly opposing same-sex marriage in the face of a country that simply it's over. As far as public opinion is concerned, it's no longer an issue for the majority of the country.
Well, I'm going to disagree with you on 2 points. One, I do think it's an issue. I don't think it's settled. The problem is when you're talking about social issues, what Republicans forget to do is talk about the economy and how they're going to do jobs. Let's face it, the majority of Americans have a faith of some kind.
Yep.
They do. And whether that faith includes, gay marriage or not, most people identify as Christians. Most people identify with the church. The problem is that's all fine and dandy, and you can oppose gay marriage all day long, until you start talking about jobs. You're not going to help those other Christians get behind you. That's the important thing. Number 2, Bob Vanderplaats, I have seen this guy take on hecklers head on over gay marriage and abortion and have these people maybe not agree with him at the end, but go, I can really see what you're talking about. I've seen him do it over and over. So I'm going to tell all these presidential candidates, and Huckabee's already done this with Vanderplaats, go talk to Bob Vanderplaats about how you're going to deal with this, because you don't have to necessarily soft pedal it. And you can sit there.
They're all soft pedaling it, though. That's the thing.
They are. And you can soft pedal it, but you have to be firm in it. I mean, most people now understand we're just going to get crushed on that, because you're right. The tide of public opinion has turned.
Yep.
I don't think it's this crushing tidal wave, not like the marijuana stuff, right? The marijuana thing's a crushing tidal wave. I don't think the pro-gay marriage people opinion is a tidal wave that's going to come in and sweep it. But the bottom line is all these social conservatives have to avoid the pitfalls of, the one question everybody's getting asked, well, if you had a relative that was gay, would you go to the wedding? That's one of those questions where you go, hey, listen, I don't play the gotcha game. Go on to the next question. but they don't. They try to answer it. Don't try to answer those gotcha questions. That's the advice I give them. But I do think it's going to be a sticking point if they don't focus on the economy. Honest to goodness. The second thing that they're not focusing on, which is important, is Obamacare. All right. We have an entire Congress full of people raining on anti-Obamacare, and they're not doing anything to get rid of it. So they're really going to have to face their position. Let me ask you a question about this.
Yeah.
Do you think with Bernie Sanders and he's like Ron Paul,
Yep.
right? With that solid left.
Yep.
Do you think Hillary's going to have problems with Bernie Sanders? Do you think Bernie Sanders even has a chance?
No.
You don't think he does?
No,
Why
I don't.
not?
I don't think she's going to have a problem with him, and I don't think that because Bernie Sanders he's been around for a long time. People know him. People like him, but ultimately he's this year's Dennis Kucinich.
Really? You think so?
Yeah, he's the true believer. He's
and that's for certain.
He has nobody behind him at all financially, which this day and age you need. He acknowledges that. The thing about Bernie that is going to be interesting is to see how much he's able to pull Hillary back to the left. That's why I think he's in. Bernie Sanders and Hillary Clinton were Senate colleagues when she was in the Senate. They got along pretty well. By all accounts, while they disagreed on a lot of stuff, and especially with the Iraq War, I think he voted against it, but I can't be sure. I can't be positive on that. I'm pretty sure that he did. They disagreed on some key issues, but I think that he considers her a colleague, an ally, and a friend. I think he's in the race to keep her honest on her left flank, so that when she gets into it, and honestly, I think it's a smart move. Especially if she pays attention to it, because as I've written about and as we've argued about, even though the numbers support this, the country on not everything obviously, but on a large host of key liberal democratic positions, the country is in favor of a lot of it. Legalizing marijuana, raising the minimum wage, same-sex marriage, just to name three. The new trade deal, although Elizabeth Warren has given the president a bad time about the new trade deal, mainly because it's not transparent.
Yeah.
And I suppose that means that there's a lot of bad stuff in it. I don't know. But a lot of liberal policy ideas have a lot of traction with the majority of the country. Not, like you said, not crushing tidal waves, but in that 53% range that can win you elections. And I think Hillary would be smart to, while she can't abandon her principles necessarily, because then she'll be a flip-flopper, and conservatives are a lot better at dogging us with that than we are dogging you guys with it. I think she needs to be sensitive to some of the liberal unrest that's out there, and Bernie can really make that, can really put that in stark relief.
Yeah, and I would agree with that. I think one of the dangers that the Republicans are going to have again this time around is, the national media, the non-Fox media, really do hatchet jobs on any leading Republican contender. And don't get me wrong, they don't like Hillary too much, but at least they don't do the hack jobs they do on the Republicans. We've already talked about that, how females get treated unfairly in politics, right? And so, I understand part of that. But I think what's going to happen in part with the Republicans is there's going to be so many of them that really they're just going to eventually mesh into just one, uniform entity. And they're going to be easy to defeat because everybody's going to associate one person's position with the other person's position. I think that's why Joni Ernst was successful in that giant PAC, because she actually set herself apart. People could then identify with her. Because if you look at Ted Cruz, and Marco Rubio, Scott Walker, they all have very similar ideas. Now, who do you think is going to take the nomination on either side?
I don't know. I mean, I think the Democrats, it's hard to see anybody here, and anybody coming out to give Hillary a serious run. Which is just weird coming from the Democrats, but because even in 2008, Barack Obama was likable. Barack Obama, even though he was this no-name guy, had charisma. and could really connect with people. And I don't see anybody else on the Democratic side that, I mean, Bernie Sanders.
Uncle Joe.
Uncle Joe could, but I don't. He and Hillary go back. He and Hillary go back way too long.
Yeah,
I don't think he'll do it. But what will be? I mean, think about like a Bernie Sanders, who's fun for guys like me that like to be angry about liberal politics. But in his campaign announcement, he says, "I'm running for president. I'll take some questions, but be quick about it because I got things to do." And that just kind of leaves after a few questions. I mean. The recipe for a successful campaign for several of these national campaigns over the last dozen or so years, 20 years, 40, probably all the way back to the beginning of time, the most likable candidate tends to get the nomination.
Yes, that's true.
Think about how unlikable who ran against Nixon?
Oh, Goldwater.
Yeah, think about how unlikable a guy like Barry Goldwater had to be for Richard Nixon to beat him.
Yeah,
I mean,
absolutely. I agree. I think Hillary is unbeatable this time through, unless Bernie Sanders really gets serious about it and just hammers it home. I think you're right about that as evaluation.
On the Republican side, and it's hard to tell because there's more. The three that they're given, that the three darlings right now are Jeb Bush, Scott Walker, and Marco Rubio. I think out of those three, I think Marco Rubio is the most likable.
Yes.
And I think that he's probably the most likable out of any of the other candidates. I can't think of it. I mean, Ted Cruz is so obnoxious with with his rhetoric, how he delivers it, what he talks about, what his issues are. Jeb Bush is kind of a I don't know, a sort of a limp fish, just sort of he kind of just is sort of lukewarm. And Scott Walker, I feel like I feel like liberals are just going to hate him.
Oh yeah,
and I think a lot of the middle class working people are going to hate him for what he did in Wisconsin.
Well, and that's part of the problem. He will motivate the left. So I don't think Walker is going to get it. Although our good friend Brad Zahn supports him, and Brad's a pretty astute person, right? So I think Scott Walker at least has a chance, but I think he's going to motivate the left.
He won 3 elections. I'm not taking anything away from his political skills, but I just think
he's tough. But this is a national election.
Yeah.
And that's a world of difference.
And Wisconsin votes blue generally in the presidential years, and I feel like he's going to have if he's facing a national he's got his reputation now is I killed public labor in Wisconsin.
And that
facing
motivates
that
the right
nationally,
that's going to be tough to face that.
I'm just saying
that's absolutely true. I think if Huckabee gets out there, gets Bob Vander Plaats on his side, starts rolling forward, gets a couple of political operatives, one named Wes Enos, who has been very important previously, and particularly Steve Deace. Steve Deace likes Huckabee quite a bit. If he can get those people in Iowa behind him, and he can start building in some money, I think Huckabee's going to take it because he's got great name recognition. People really enjoy talking to him, and he's really a pretty nice guy. Drawbacks are going to be the Common Core thing. That's what I see as a drawback. I think if I had to put money down on who's going to win it, I think it's going to be Bush. And the reason is he's got a brother who's already done it. He can ride on George's coattails, whether you love him or hate him. He's got dad. He's got money wrapped up. And right now, he's doing the only sensible thing he can. He's just riding. He's not saying a lot. He's not creating a lot of waves. And he's really taking the Joni Ernst approach. We're just going to let things go. Because I'm sure Kochel is on his team.
Well, I mean, and the Joni Ernst business is really interesting to me because she won in a Republican year where not a lot of people as a percentage of the population voted, and she ran on sunshine, rainbows, and good feelings. Yeah. Her public persona, and this is not to take away from whatever policy prescription she might have, whatever ideas she might have, but she certainly didn't talk a lot about it in her campaign, and came off as a lot more charming, a lot more likable, a lot more relatable than old cousin Bruce.
Yes, absolutely.
And so that seems to be the road that Jeb Bush kind of wants to take, but he's not as naturally charming. He's not as naturally likable.
No, he isn't.
I mean, he's not even as charming as his brother, and his brother drove me nuts.
Well, you know, his brother was charming in the fact that he was very real and very down to earth, and had a very real problem that a lot of people struggle with. You know, is that anxiety, the speech impediments that he had when things were going on around him. So, and then we have Carly Fiorina. I know we're going along. We're just going to kind of finish out, and then we'll take a break. Excuse me. I think she's running just to be a gadfly. That's my idea. There's a lot of things going on that she doesn't like. She's made that known. She was at the West Side Conservative Club last week, which I found very impressive. Excuse me. The people that run the West Side Conservative Club, they get all kinds of real talent out there. I mean, high-end political people from both sides of the fence. So the bottom line is, if you really want to stay in tune with Iowa politics, you go hit that every Wednesday or every other Wednesday.
Go ahead. Finish up.
Carly Fiorina, I don't think is really has a chance one way or another. I think Ben Carson is really going to struggle. I think a lot of people liked him. I even have a run, Ben, run sticker on my car. And honest to God, if I wouldn't scratch the paint, I would take it off, right? Because he came out against guns and there was a giant backlash. And I'm like, well, hold on. You know, I like clinging to my guns and religion. All right. And you can't take my guns. And because I have enough problems with the left, so I don't want a president in there. And there's a lot of people that feel that way, even though he's changed his stance. But I think he's going to struggle a little bit here. And so go ahead.
Oh, Carly Fiorina cracks me up.
Yeah.
Because before she announced, she came out hard against Hillary and really laid into Hillary about, Hillary's just not qualified. She hasn't accomplished anything. And this is coming from a woman who ran Hewlett Packard into the ground, got fired, then lost to Barbara Boxer by like 40 points in the Senate. I mean, for her to say that Hillary Clinton hasn't accomplished anything is just, I mean, what kind of weight class did she think she was trying to punch into?
Yes, absolutely.
And I don't know what Carly Fiorina has necessarily accomplished, but it doesn't hold a candle to the things that Hillary has done, whether you like her or hate her. She's accomplished a lot.
And I would agree with that.
Ben Carson, that's great. Good. The more people, the better. I mean, he elicits no strong emotions in me one way or the other. We've had a couple of some operatives that he is connected to on the show. They seem like nice people, but I mean, what's his niche? Where does he fit in? What does he want to do?
Absolutely. Well, and that's one of the things. He hasn't defined himself yet. We also have Rick Santorum. We talked a little bit about that. Apparently he is running. And the bottom line is, though, like we said, Bob Vanderplatz is in kind of a decline. I think Bob, if he has to make a decision between Rick Santorum, who he genuinely has an affection for, and Mike Huckabee, who he also has a genuine affection for, I'm not sure what Bob is going to do. I do know that Rick Santorum needs Bob Vanderplatz in order to be able to win. I don't think that's so much true for Mike Huckabee. So we'll have to see how that plays out. Rick Perry's running again. He's been up here, I don't know, at least 10 times. I'm not quite sure what his chances are going to be in Iowa. He is wildly popular whenever he shows up. He always gets the loudest applause. He works the crowd better than anybody else I've seen, including Mike Huckabee and Jeb Bush. So I think that Rick might be angling for a vice presidential nod because he is from Texas. That's going to be a huge state that they're going to have to carry. And I don't think it's going to be tough for the Republicans to carry Texas. But I do believe that having Rick Perry on the ticket as a vice presidential candidate is going to do a world of good, number one, for fundraising from Texas, and two, carrying the state.
No. I mean, until
he's a great guy.
I don't think I've met Rick Perry.
Really? I thought you met him.
I met Santorum.
Oh yeah, that's right.
And who's good buddies with Santorum? Well, political buddies with Santorum. One Ed Bull.
Oh yes,
down in Marion County. He'd had him down there at the coffee shop a couple weeks ago.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, they had a little meet and greet with Santorum, and he worked on We did some get out the vote stuff in Marion County back in 2012 for him. But no, Rick, I mean, why would you want you don't need a Texan as your vice president, depending on where you're from the Republican Party, because you're going to have Texas as your counted state. No Republicans are worried about Texas. They don't have to worry about Texas until probably 2050.
Yeah, that may be true.
That might not even be a president. I just pulled that number out of my rear end. I don't know.
But I agree. But it's going to make a lot of things easier if you can, secure the Texas.
Sure.
So
2048. I just did the math.
2050
would be an off year.
Yes, there you go. Good deal. We'll be back right after these breaks. Thanks everybody for tuning in. What's our topic next segment?
Oh, I don't know. Do you want to give us an update about what's going on in Ukraine?
Yeah, I can do that.
Okay.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast 1 Live.
Get away from us, you mean old credit card. We don't have any more money. We're in trouble now. Save us! Help! Somebody save us! Somebody help! Help! Save us!
Hi, I'm Tom Coates from Consumer Credit of Des Moines. If your credit card's a little too animated, give us a call.
Hooray! We're saved! Consumer Credit! You're our hero!
If Tom Coates from Consumer Credit of America was your personal webmaster, Tom would filter out all bad debt emails. If Tom was your mailman, you'd never get any debt reduction junk mail. If Tom Coates was a lineman, he'd block any phone calls offering to reduce your credit card debt.
Hi, I'm Tom Coates with Consumer Credit of America, and we're still your best choice for credit counseling. We're local, we're accountable, and we can do more. You make the call when the time's right for you.
When it comes to competition, there really is none for Consumer Credit of America.
Welcome back, everybody. Thanks for sticking around here. I got a little bit ahead of myself in our rundown. I think that rather than go across the pond to Ukraine and talk about the ongoing conflict that's there, we need to talk about what just happened a few days ago down in Texas. A couple of guys with some weaponry went and shot a few people at a comic convention put on by a group that has some pretty troubling reputation for they come out they were the I can't remember the name, it's the American Freedom something, AFDI I think is what they're called. They are very vociferously anti-Islam. They were the folks that put together the Ground Zero mosque protests, and they were holding a convention to give a best depiction of the Prophet Muhammad cartoon award to the cartoonist, and they got shot by a couple of guys that now appear to have ties to ISIS, which has sparked some fear that ISIS is invading the country.
Which several people have mentioned months ago. Several people had mentioned, there was a general that had mentioned it. The CIA stayed out of it. But the FBI had given a couple of briefings. I mean, these are just things that it did make the news, but it's one of those things where, here in America, we always think we're safe.
Well, I don't suppose it necessarily would have had to have been ISIS. You think about the Boston bombing. Those guys didn't have any connections to anybody. It doesn't, and not to downplay. I mean, it's a tragedy, and you don't want this to happen, even if it's, you don't want folks shooting people for that kind of reason ever. Full stop. No. I may not agree with what this organization likes to do with its time, but that drives me nuts. But here's what's interesting to me. Okay, so Texas and a lot of the conservatives have, for a while, and even you and Dr. Heeb on the show, espoused a fear, or maybe an apprehension, I shouldn't say fear, an apprehension that ISIS could bring folks in from Mexico because of how the border is enforced. And there's no information about where these guys came from. They could be native Texans, or they could be U.S. citizens. I don't know. You might have read it. I'm not sure. But in typical Texas fashion, they're kind of giving the federal government a little bit of grief for not sealing the border well enough. Well, then the Army and the military comes in. They want to do exercises in Texas, and in response, the governor calls up the National Guard to protect against a Obama takeover because the Army's in town. So I mean, tell you can talk to these people. What do they want?
Well, let's keep focused on ISIS.
I'm tying that together. So ISIS takes responsibility, kind of puts paid a little bit to some of the apprehension. Hey, we needed a presence here. But when there's a presence there that can help with that kind of stuff, they're trying to they want to set the National Guard to watch it and make sure they don't do anything wrong. And they're worried that that's martial law in Texas.
Well, and the bottom line is, especially after Baltimore, right? Look at what happened there. And, these people, I mean, the country's on edge. The country's been on edge for a while. And the Texans, they don't quite trust Obama or why he would deploy troops, because Obama's known to be unfriendly to the American troops. I mean, that's how the veterans feel. And there's a ton of veterans in Texas. That's the only thing I can think of. They
did the same kinds of exercises back when Bush was president. Nobody cared.
Yeah, because Bush is from Texas and he isn't going to come in there and take over the state. But there is a real fear. There is a real fear among some groups that is what Obama wants to do, especially when you have the DHS buying billions of rounds of ammunition. I mean, that was a controversy, a year or two ago. We talked about it on the show. And the bottom line is they're buying enough rounds so that everybody can qualify. If you look at the number of people that they have. But the thing is you still have that fear in Texas. I mean, I traveled down there, I went down there and interviewed, and they still kind of have that feeling.
I'm not saying that they don't have the fear. I'm saying that their fear is misplaced and moronic. That's what I'm saying.
Well, and
shots fired, Texas.
And you can sit there and call it moronic all you want, but at some point, paranoid people get followed. So let's get it back onto ISIS.
And that's what I was talking about, though.
No, you're talking about Texas's response to this.
No, yeah.
I'm talking about ISIS specifically.
Right. So why is Texas more worried about its own government than it is about two guys that are claiming allegiance to ISIS?
Well, because one, it's two guys claiming allegiance to ISIS.
I thought ISIS was the big bad wolf.
And number two, the ISIS doesn't have the ability to drop 60,000 troops in the middle of Texas, unlike our own government has. I mean, you're asking me to defend Texans when I'm not a Texan.
I'm asking you to explain it to me.
Well, I just did. They have some serious reservations about the motivations of Obama, right? Oh my God, Jason put up a nasty post on Facebook. It says that has a picture of Vince Foster. It says you can trust Hillary just like I did. That's awful. And I don't think it's entirely accurate.
You don't think so? That's generous of you.
Because I don't think Vince Foster trusted her at all. So anyway, back to ISIS. The bottom line is people have been worried that ISIS is going to be able to come across the border. They've been worried they're going to be able to launch attacks, and this is an example. Now, I think part of this is it's going to be just like the Tsarnaev brothers, right? These people, and I don't know all the details, but this guy was on their radar for a long time. The FBI couldn't do anything because generally they do something as soon as they have a case.
Yep.
Right. That's in general what they do. So I think what happened is these guys self-radicalized. They went out there, killed people that offended Muhammad or offended their sense of what Muhammad should be. And that's that. We're going to get that everywhere. We're going to get that all around the world because you hit it on the head when we had that argument one time after the show about theocracies are terrible governmental ideas. That's what these people are doing. They're honestly taking us from the 21st century and transporting us back to the 700s. They're really trying to take away 1,400 years of social and political and medical advancement. That's what their goal is. I mean, you can see it. So the bottom line is I think they're self-radicalizing and going forward from there because I heard that this guy was very popular in high school. So he doesn't really quite fit the mold of some kind of outsider or delinquent or whatever. So we're going to be back right after this break. We're going to continue to talk about ISIS And I'm going to start tying this into why ISIS is growing more and more important in international law and politics, and link that into Ukraine and what's going on there. We'll be back right after this break.
Bertroche and Associates will provide you with a friendly, caring, and confidential place to find help for mental health concerns. We are ready for your call. We are proud to work with military personnel and their families. Our doctor, Dr. J. Patrick Bertroche, provides a full range of psychiatric services for children, adolescents, and adults in a forthright and informative manner while maintaining a casual, comfortable, and relaxed atmosphere. Our licensed mental health therapists provide individual counseling to children, adolescents, and adults, including couples and marital counseling. Visit our website at bertrocheandassociates.com for more information or call 515-334-9484. Our offices are located at 5525 Meredith Drive in Des Moines, just east of Skate North off Merle Hay Road. Isn't it time to talk to someone? Take care of yourself and your family. Contact Bertroche and Associates.
Hey, welcome back, everybody. Thanks for sticking around for the last 10 minutes. So, Doc, bring it on home for us. Synthesize ISIS with the larger world. I want to hear it. I'm all ears.
All right. So we have this thing called ISIS, who is stomping all over the Middle East. It has been stopped in several places, but like trying to squeeze a fistful of Jell-O, you squeeze it, you get it stopped one place, it oozes out somewhere else.
They haven't grown appreciably since the airstrike started.
No, well, not in that area, but they're spreading out to Libya.
Mm-hmm.
They're spreading out to Egypt. They're taking their war everywhere else. They're taking their war, believe it or not, to the Caribbean, to South America, and they're trying to bring it straight to the United States. It has spread over into Malaysia, and in fact, the old guard Muslims in Malaysia are now taking arms up against ISIS, right? You have this going on all over. The reports in Australia that supposedly in the outback, ISIS has training camps. Now, nobody can verify it. It's one of these things I read on a Flipboard from I think it was RT.com. I can't remember. Don't quote me on that. But I'm sitting here, I'm thinking, one, the outback is not compatible with life in the summer. So I don't know how they have a base out there. And number two, I'm sure the Australians are keeping track. But anyway, it's spreading all over Africa. Boko Haram is getting in touch with these people. They're swearing allegiance to each other. And now, here we have Russia trying to keep Assad in power, and you have us trying to keep Assad out of power. And yet there's a third group here who's going like, yeah, we hope you kill each other. And that's ISIS.
Mm-hmm.
Now, throw in the Chechens, who are growing restive because ISIS is going after the Russians as well as us. These people, they don't care who you are. It's like that little, it's like that little Chihuahua that has gone mad with rabies.
Yeah.
Right? Honest to God, you're like, you can't let it bite you. But at the same time, you're going like, what the hell? How come I can't beat this thing up?
The view that ISIS is like a Chihuahua with rabies is the view of Dr. Patrick Bertroche solely, and not the views representative of Doc and Left program or webcast1live.com.
No.
ISIS, if you're listening, no, you're right. You're absolutely right. No, they suck. They suck. They are like a Chihuahua. They're this really just nasty. They're this really nasty virus that is located in a part of the foot that is pretty well isolated from the rest of the body, but they're going to make it really tough to walk on it.
Oh yes.
And it's just, and it really is difficult to come up with a good analogy to describe ISIS. I don't know, man. There's unrest. It feels like there hasn't been this level of unrest in a long time, except that, the 80s, you had this kind of stuff happen, not necessarily terrorism in this degree, but you had the Afghans and the Soviets fighting in the 80s, you had in 70s and 80s, you had Grenada, you had the Falklands. There was all kinds of stuff happening. But
nothing like this.
You don't think so? I feel like...
No, because it's all very well coordinated. That's the difference.
No, I'm not talking about terrorism necessarily. Even though terrorism's not new, this is a different kind of terrorism than we've confronted before, that's for sure. But I mean, like, just conflict around the world and things to worry about. I mean, we've got we've got the earthquake in Nepal. We've got millions of people outside their homes that we can't really do anything about that. We've got these crazy dudes in the Middle East killing folks, and a crazy guy in Russia trying to recreate former imperialism glory over there. It's a lot. There's a lot going on. There's a lot of unrest, but I feel like we hyperventilate about it. We're getting overwhelmed with something that is sort of just how the world operates.
Well, and normally I would agree. I'd say, things like this happen. But the problem is it's the same organization in all these states. I mean, obviously not the earthquake, not Nepal. But you're talking there's problems in Iraq due to ISIS. There's problems in Turkey due to ISIS. There's problems in all across North Africa due to ISIS. There's problems in Nigeria due to Boko Haram, who really are followers of ISIS.
They've affiliated with them.
You have problems in South America now because of ISIS. You have problems in the Caribbean, for Christ's sakes, due to ISIS. You have problems everywhere due to ISIS. And the Chechens are arrested because of ISIS. So the Russians suddenly have to stop and go, hold on, we're going to have to go fight the Chechen war again. They don't want to do that. That would be like us going back to Vietnam. Right? So the thing is, there are people in Ukraine who are claiming, well, the Ukrainians are shelling the civilians. The Russians are shelling the civilians. And, of course, Russians aren't letting anybody in. Ukrainians are blaming them right back and forth. And now there are reports that the local mosques, because there's one in Odessa, there's several not several, but there's two in Kiev, and there's several in the Donbass region, which is what we're talking about, where suddenly they're talking about foreign fighters engaging both sides in the conflict. Now, these aren't like, AP wire reports. These are reports I get from people that live there, from papers that are there. And, you can't verify it, but you start to think, well, what better way to disrupt Russia than to attack their forces there and make sure that conflict stays in Ukraine instead of turning back south to Chechnya.
But, talking about all of this, all the different stuff, let's say for the sake of argument that the level of international unrest is different or worse somehow or more prevalent or whatever, and that let's also assume that it's gotten to the point where the United States by itself can't keep hands on everybody. We can't keep all the kids in line anymore, just because it's finally gotten to the point where we just can't do it by ourselves. And that's why, we saw in the 2000s why the coalition was so important. You see why the Obama administration is trying to forge these partnerships, these coalitions, all these other folks. The last two administrations have been more worried about doing that than folks like Clinton or H.W. Bush, who just took unilateral action, okay? And Reagan and on into the past. So maybe, and I'm just putting this as an argument. You know who would help? You know who would really help ease, take the load off? If say we've been the police person of the world for so long, could really help us with some of this, carry this load? China.
Yeah, but they have a strict non-interventionist.
I know, but that's the thing. It's like China is now in some measures the biggest economy in the world. They don't spend as much on the military as we do, but they could if they wanted to.
They could.
You know who else could help? India. China and India coming together with the United States could help put paid to a lot of this kind of stuff. But they have a developing country's mentality when it comes to intervening around the world, that they don't want to get involved because they're still trying to get their footing. They're still trying to become as powerful as the United States. They don't feel like they're there yet. And you just sort of wonder what's it going to take? A full-scale invasion of China by ISIS?
Well,
but
the Chinese already have their problems with Muslims.
The Uyghurs are not ISIS though, and that's not the same thing.
And you're right, but think of how Think of how large the Uyghur population is there. That's right,
Yeah.
Uyghur?
Yeah.
Yeah. The Uyghur population there is.
They're not nearly as violent, though.
They're not nearly as violent, but it won't take long because there's been a lot of violent crackdowns that don't make it out of China.
Right. Well, exactly.
So-
But I mean, and I'm not sitting here saying that we necessarily can think of China as a full partner, given a lot of the things that we don't like about them. But boy, it would be nice. It would be. I mean, one of the reasons that the Cold War kind of kept everybody in check is that all the little kids were watching to see what mom and dad were going to do. Are the U.S. and the Soviet Union going to kill each other, which blow the entire world up? They're aiming bombs, they're aiming missiles at each other. Is that what's going to happen? In the 90s, we sort of had the hangover from that, kind of the peaceful, the NATO stuff started to get up. We just, and Russia's recovering. We don't have a lot going on, except that the sort of the rise of, or the re-insurgence, I guess, of an Osama bin Laden character getting stronger and stronger and stronger until he bursts out in 2001. And you see these last 15 years as this kind of free-for-all, and we don't have a Soviet Union. We don't have England helped us when they can, but they're not big enough. Germany, France, all the Western allies that have together equal one China.
Yes.
We need another partner. We need a partner as big and bad as us, and we don't have it.
Yeah, and that's true, and that's why we needed the reset with the Russians. Now I'm going to tell you. A lot of people complain about President Obama's foreign policy, and I'm one of them. But I am going to tell you that there's been several benefits to the way he has done things. Namely that the local regional people that have the most invested in seeing things peaceful are now taking an active role. They're now doing what we used to do. I think that's worth mentioning somewhere. And even though I don't agree with how President Obama executes his foreign policy, that has been one of the unforeseen consequences that happens to have a positive result for us, at least now in the short term. Usually I give Lefty the last word, but we're, a solid minute and a half over. Thanks everybody for tuning in. We'll be back next week.
Hi, I'm Representative Tom Shaw, and I love these guys. Both of them.
Love these guys. Get over here. Love both of them.